Hey everybody! Today we're going to be reviewing the movie Enthiran, the Robot. It was made in 2010 and it's a Tamil film. It's directed by S. Shankar and it's starring Rajnikanth, the superstar actor Rajnikanth, and Aishwarya Rai Bachchan. And this is a story where Rajnikanth plays a scientist named Dr. Vasi Garan, but they call him Vasi in the movie as a short name. And he creates an android that they name Chiti. Chiti ends up getting emotions and he falls in love with Varsi's fiancée, Sana, who's played by Aishwarya. And then the craziness ensues. So the first part of this is going to be spoiler free, and we'll just go through my thoughts, and then we'll give it a grade, and after that we'll go into spoilers. And when we get into spoilers, I will let you know, flash on the screen, say we're going to get into spoilers. So if you don't want to know anything about the movie, if you haven't seen it and you want to go watch it, you can go and check it out and come back and watch the spoiler part. Now, I totally understand why Chiti would fall in love with Sana. Her character was very likable, down to earth, and she's gorgeous. So, I mean, anyone would easily fall in love with her. I mean, hell, I was on board and ready to fall in love with her myself. And I enjoyed the dichotomy of if you give your creation emotions, you also have to take the risk that they may not agree with you. Our villain's motivations, though, were thin and unknown throughout the movie until the third act, which I did like. I liked that he was supposed to be a mentor and that there was a twist of him being the villain. However, it did make his character somewhat confusing in the beginning, since we knew that he was a villain because they played villainous music every time he was on screen, but there wasn't anything in his actions that said that he was a villain. So we knew he was a villain, and that took away from the impact of the twist in the third act that he went above the being a mentor and just wanting the program and became a villain. So it wasn't much of a twist. I'm not giving anything away by saying that because they set him up as a villain in the first couple of scenes. I also like that they gave Chiti the ability to focus his magnetism, and so it gave him powers of flight and strength because he could focus his magnetism to go to a specific spot or move something specific. And I like that because they gave his powers a logical reasoning. So you were on board throughout the movie of why he was able to do certain things. Even though it was a bit over the top sometimes, you didn't care because you had an explanation. The music was good. My dad loves A.R. Rahman's music, so he was in love with those songs when we were watching the movie together. Personally, I liked them, but I didn't absolutely love them. It was perfectly fine, though. The score fit the overall tone of the film and supported the scenes that they were playing in. Except for the showing the villain too soon. They shouldn't have had villainous music when he was on screen yet. But other than that, the score fit what was going on in the scenes and helped increase your motivation of what was going on. Most of the music video songs were very entertaining and I liked them, except for one, which I'll get into in the spoiler section. But most of the songs tied into the movie in some way. This one song didn't tie into the movie at all. It was just dropped in there. And it was just confusing of why it was there. But again, we'll talk about that one in the spoilers. Enthiran was directed very well. The story moved along at a very good pace for the most part. There were a couple of moments that I thought dragged a little bit, but not too much. And some of the music videos were a little distracting, but not bad. They were still entertaining. They were just distracting from the story that they were trying to tell. And so I think overall the directing was very good. The movie was 3 hours long and it didn't feel like 3 hours. And that's a good sign that you enjoyed the movie. If the movie is 1 hour long and it feels like it's 3 hours long, that's the sign the movie's not that great. The cinematography was also really good. I enjoyed the framing of the scenes. It was very clear and easy to follow everything that was going on in screen, and visually you could tell what was happening. The lighting was bright, and I did like that, but it was and very clear. But it looked better at the location shots than it did inside the studio. I think the lighting in the studio was too artificial. The lighting outside on the locations had some artificial light, but it was a much fuller light and it felt more realistic. So to wrap up, the overall, all the characters were very interesting and fun to watch their arcs. It's a pretty fun movie. I enjoyed myself. It didn't feel like 3 hours, so that was a good sign. Even though it got a bit cheesy at times, it wasn't bad because it matched the tone, the overall tone of the humor throughout the movie. And nothing seemed out of place except for that one song that I'll talk about and dance scene. But other than that, it was fine. I'm going to give this movie a B+. So now we're going to get into some spoiler territory. So spoilers! Spoilers! Click away if you don't want to know any spoilers. Now, I really liked the meeting that they had with AIRD, which is a group of scientists and other like-minded people to decide whether or not Vossi's robot could be used for military purposes. So he couldn't even take it to the military until they decided that was okay. And during that entire sequence, when they were talking to him and asking him questions, one of the scientists brought up Isaac Asimov's rules of robotics. And that made me very happy. I'm glad that they referenced that. And he had 3 laws of robotics in his I, Robot book series. And the rules are, a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. The second rule is, a robot must obey orders given it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And the third law is, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws. Now, this added a philosophical aspect to the film, which was my favorite part. I loved that. It also had a mix in there of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where you have Vossi plays Dr. Frankenstein type character, and Chiti would be the Frankenstein's monster. And that aspect is mixed with Isaac Asimov's I, Robot ideals. And so I loved that philosophical discussion that you can have after the movie. It benefits the consequences of artificial life. You know, you're trying to figure out what are the morals that come into play when you're a creator of life. And where is the line of when something is considered sentient life? You know, is he a robot even though he thinks and feels for himself, or does he become a sentient being that gets to make his own decisions? And so that good mix of Frankenstein and I, Robot, I really enjoyed that, and that was my favorite part of the movie. Now, when you disassemble a robot, you don't just hit it and then take its limbs off. That's not disassembling. Because you're not destroying the robot, you're just taking its arms off. Put its arms back on and it would work again. And so I thought it would be pretty obvious from the scientists should know if you're going to destroy a robot or disassemble it, you've got to destroy the circuitry. And he should know that because he built the robot and he built the circuitry. So he knows what's going to allow it to work or not. So you don't just hit it on the head, take its limbs off, and throw it in the trash. You kind of had to do that to allow the second half of the movie to happen. I think they could have destroyed him a little more and let the villain repair him in a way that the other scientists Vasi wouldn't have even known that he could be repaired. I would have liked that. But I thought it was pretty sloppy that they just took him apart and threw him away. So the song that threw me off was Kilimanjaro. It had no tie-in to the movie, besides the fact that Sana was beautiful and they're in love, but they already touched on that on previous songs. There was no need to touch on it again. And the video made no sense. It was just dropped in there. When it started, I looked at my dad and said, "What? What are we doing in Peru? At Machu Picchu, dancing with Incans? Like, that doesn't make any sense." And all I could think about is it must have been a music video that came out before the movie was made, and they couldn't figure out how to integrate it into the movie, so they just dropped it in at that moment. And the video was probably made because someone wanted an excuse to visit Machu Picchu, which I can understand. I want to go there also, so if you can go there on the company's dime, go ahead and do that. It just didn't belong in the movie. It was distractingly disconnected from the story of the film, and it pulled me out. And so when we got reintroduced to the story again, it was another stark change, and I had to reacclimate myself to find out where we were and try and jump back into the story. So it was jarring, and I didn't like that aspect. I wish they had kept that just as a music video that you put on TV or attached to the movie in some way as marketing, but it had no purpose in the movie. I didn't want it in the movie personally. The end action sequence was entertaining and fun. I enjoyed it. It was very unrealistic, of course, but at least you could suspend belief and easily accept it because of the overall tone and the humor that was involved with the movie, plus their setup of his magnetic controlling powers that they had established earlier in the movie. It made sense of why he could do all of these things. And so you were able to just enjoy and follow along and like that whole action sequence. However, the police were firing their guns all over the place and in Sana's direction. I was really surprised that she didn't die or get injured in any way. The police were horrible shots, but that kind of made me giggle because I'm like, wow, Sana's either bulletproof or those police are firing in weird directions all over the place. Now this part might be something that you guys may not know about, some people may not know about, but my little film nerd part of me got really happy when I heard the Wilheim Scream, which is this. So the Wilheim Scream, it was created back in the 1950s or 40s, ended up being put in a lot of movies. And the movie that made it famous was Star Wars. They used the Wilhelm Scream, and ever since then Lucas has been putting it in all of his movies, and it just became like a running inside joke that people just want to put their Wilhelm Scream in the movie. And film buffs notice it. And so when I heard it in this movie, I was like, ah, the Wilhelm Scream! The Wilhelm Scream! There's a video from WatchMojo.com that I'll link in the description below that gives you the top 10 Wilhelm Screams in movie, and it gives you a good background of where it came from and how it got popular. So that's a cool video to check out, so hit that link down there. At the end of the movie, we are at a museum in the year 2030, and you see Chiti is disassembled in this glass case. And there's this group of children that are being toured around the museum, and Chiti looks and says something to one of the students, which is supposed to set up a possible sequel, and it's a nice little nod, so the fans are like, ooh! But we are getting a sequel. We're getting one this year, Robot 2.0. And I wonder if Robot 2.0 is going to take place after 2030 when he was in that glass case, where they have to put Chiti back together to help fight the villain, which is Dr. Richard, who's played by Akshay Kumar. Also, the big reveal of the poster where we got to see what Akshay would look like as the villain, was very interesting. It's a much different villain, and since he's billed as Dr. Richard, I'm wondering if they're going to go the route of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, since this movie, the first movie, had a lot of themes that were taken from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein mixed with I, Robot, that it would make sense to me that Robot 2.0 would draw from another classic story and draw from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then they have to reassemble Chiti to be able to fight the bad guy. Overall, it was a fun and entertaining movie. I enjoyed it. I liked watching it. I'd probably watch it again at some point. It does make me a bit more excited for Robot 2.0 because I want to see where they're going to go, especially with some of these philosophical themes. I'm hoping that they do continue the philosophical themes, but expand on it, not just repeat it. I wanted to do a little self-promo. You can see we've got shirts. Koricon Nala shirts. You can get them at Spreadshirt. I have a link to that in the description below. Also, I have a Discord server now where fans and me and everybody can chat live. We can do some live chatting. 24/7 people can get on there and talk to each other. We have set rooms, specific rooms for like spoiler talk about movies or non-spoiler talk about movies and TV shows and whatever else you guys want to talk about. Also, the Reactors League that I'm a part of, bloop, they have a Discord channel as well, which is a great place. We launched that today. And you can talk with fans of multiple different types of reaction channels, review channels, and you might even find other channels that you would be interested in. A lot of us are in that chat room as well, so you can talk to a bunch of different kinds of reactors and YouTubers. But links to all of this, the Watch Mojo, and all of my social medias, everything's in the description below, so go ahead and check that out. So what did you guys think? Comment below and let me know your thoughts on Enthiran the Robot, and let me know if you're excited for the sequel 2.0 coming out this year. Give me your thoughts, give me your ideals. What did you think of the movie? Like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends, and I will see you on the next video.